Led by Assistant Park Manager Lewis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I tell you, it just warms your heart when you can hear your daughter saying the pledge over everybody else in town. I love it. I love it. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dudley Farms' new park manager, Mr. Dennis Parsons, to give today's welcome.
Wow, welcome. Foggy this morning, guys. Foggy this morning. As I was driving over here this morning, and I thought I was going to be here early, I was here at 8 a.m. and when I pull up, there's people already here working and scrambling and grinding the cane. I'm very happy to be the newest member of this team over here, and I would like to recognize the staff and the volunteers and the CSO. If everybody could kind of give them a round of applause, because without them, none of this would be possible. And I'm really new, but when I first came here to Dudley Farm, when I went over in that farmhouse, the house itself smells just like my grandmother's house, and these fillings started coming up, and memories, and that's some of the stuff we get to do in the Florida Park Service. We get to bring back some of the past for people, and that's the smell of that tobacco barn. I'm from northeastern Kentucky, and I used to cut tobacco and house tobacco, so just brings back memories. And so I was thinking of two things, the feelings that resonated in me, and then how many visitors come here, and that's those same feelings resonate in them. So just what a special place we have here today. We're going to be able to recognize it as a National Historic Landmark. I think it's pretty awesome. When this fall cloud finally burns off, it's going to be a beautiful day. Please go around and just enjoy this beautiful park. The last thing for me here is the little things that we take for granted every day. Just something as simple as hot water in the morning when we're taking our showers. People had to work really hard for that, dipping water out, and you're going to learn that today when you go around and see all these volunteers kind of demonstrating and showing how it was hard work, and it's a very, very special, unique treasure we have here to be able to see how have an authentic working farm and see how people used to live. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my boss, the Bureau Chief, Cliff Maxwell. He has some things to tell you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Of course, on behalf of the Florida Park Service, we're very proud to be here today and accept the National Historic Landmark designation that the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service have honored this park with. There are less than 50 National Historic Landmarks in the state of Florida, and we're very proud that Dudley Farm will be ranked among those special places. This marks the most significant of our historic resources. And 10 of these National Historic Landmarks are managed by the Florida Park Service. And our job is to preserve these and tell their stories for future generations. There's a few folks I'd like to thank today. So I have my card because I don't want to forget anyone, although I'm surely will and want to apologize ahead of time. First of all, I'd like to thank the Friends of Dudley Farm, Mayor Jordan and the City of Newberry, and our staff and volunteers, as Dennis did, for putting this event together today. I'd like to welcome, of course, all of our visitors and volunteers and participants, without whom this event wouldn't be possible. And perhaps most importantly, those community leaders and the people who've worked so hard behind the scenes for many, many years to preserve this site, to recognize the importance of Dudley Farm and the time capsule that it represents, and then all the folks who worked to gather the information, put together the application for the National Historic Landmark designation, and vet that information to really recognize this site as one of the most significant of our historic resources in the nation. And of course, the Department of Interior and the National Park Service for providing that recognition. So I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here, and turn it over to Mayor Marlowe for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You know, if you've probably lived your whole life thinking that Dudley Farm is in the city of Newberry, but it actually was not true until very recently so. And I want to thank the park rangers. I look forward to working with you, sir. They have been invaluable in helping us finally close that gap and bring Dudley back home, because we've always known it was City of Newberry. Now it just technically is City of Newberry, and we couldn't have done it without you guys. So absolutely, thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Friends of Dudley president, Miss Emily Matthews. She's going to get up and tell us, because we couldn't do this without all of these volunteers. And so, ma'am, thank you so much for all that you do. And the Friends of Dudley, please come and tell us a little bit about it.
Got one.
Now, I tend to ramble, so I've written it down. But I still may ramble. I was going to say it was a glorious day out here, and it still is. Just a little foggy. And as he said, it is my privilege to be president of the Dudley Farm CSO State Park. And I want to thank the staff, the volunteers, and especially the members of the CSO. If you are part of our CSO, will you raise your hand or stand up, one of the two? And we really appreciate you. These individuals and those that are located out and around the different stations across the park that couldn't attend the ceremony make this park work. You know, there's not a lot of staff, and we are trying to keep it a working farm, and to do that you need volunteers. I'll probably say that a lot. And I'm sure there are others, and I don't want to leave anybody out, so I appreciate what everyone does, whether it's cutting sugar cane out in the field, and believe me, that's not a fun job, or guiding a group of students through the homestead. I can't begin to name everyone because I'm sure I would miss someone, but I appreciate every single thing that people do, and even each other. We don't know what some of our other folks in the CSO are out here. Some of them are out here almost every day working. So, if you are interested in being a volunteer or just want more information, you can contact Sandra Cashes. Sandra, raise your hand. This is who you'd contact if you're interested in being a volunteer. You got to pass her test. It's not hard. And I also know that
those that love the park that are no longer with us, like Becky Dean, Bob Spandenberg, Veda Horner, to name a few, would be so proud of this dedication. Sorry. So there are those that have worked so very hard and remain dedicated to accomplish being a national landmark, such as Roy Hunt, Murray Laurie, and others. They are to be applauded. None of this would have been accomplished if not for them. So let's give them a round of applause. Well, you know, the past couple of years has slowed us down as far as fundraisers and events, because we couldn't have them because of some crazy thing called COVID. But you know, as soon as we could start meeting and kept that 6-foot distance, we did. We started working on completing things that could be done. The new information sign, completed by Norm Tankersley, was built. We kept coming up with designs, and when ones are approved, he had that put together very quickly. So take a look at it if you didn't see it when you came in. It's on wheels, and it will tell you all the events that were going on here. One of the really neat accomplishments that we've done, well, I haven't, but people have, was growing plants for a plant sale. We call them the Soil Sisters. They even have t-shirts that say Soil Sisters on them. And they raised over $2,000 at their last plant sale. And you know, the money that we raise goes into providing for this park. So even though we haven't been able to do some of the things, we provided for almost everything the park has needed, such as underneath these quilts, there's lattice. And that lattice, when we take this apart, will be used to repair some of the places on the visitor center. So nothing goes wasted. And then years ago, an educational building was approved. At that time it was approved, I believe funds could have been available, or we would have been able to raise it, but we didn't. I don't know why I wasn't part of it then, and I'm sure that it was difficult. It's always difficult to raise money. But the building, when we started talking about it again, would cost $2.5 million at least. We don't have that kind of money. So that didn't stop us. Our past manager, Gabby, and I came up with a plan. If we divide the building into phases, it might work. So we divided it into 3 phases and sent the plans for approval. Each phase, when completed, would be usable. Recently, the approval came through, and we will be working with several agencies to ensure all steps are followed, which means we're going to start doing some fundraising. So check it out. Of course, who knew that building costs were going to go up? Now that we are meeting again, 2 committees are going to be formed, and if anybody is interested in being part of that committee, we're going to have one to follow up on changes being made on the approved plans, and the other doing some serious fundraising. I have to say, the CSO won't be alone. The staff works right along with us for our goals, and it is our goals. It's not the staff or the park and us, it's together. As a designated landmark, opportunities for grants and financial options should open up. The CSO and the staff will be planning several events. Come attend them, volunteer, be a part of them, or just come out and enjoy this wonderful park. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this historic day. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I heard fundraising about 5 times there. So when you're out and about here today, dig deep and let's make some of these great ideas happen. I am very excited to announce the next speaker today. It's tough to become a National Historic Landmark site without friends in Washington, D.C. And the city of Newberry and Alachua County, this district has a wonderful friend here who is out there politicking right now, but should be making her way to the podium any second. There she comes. Now she's coming up. She's your representative and ours. We couldn't put her on the agenda because you never know, she might have to go fight for us up in D.C. at the last minute. But please give a round of applause to Representative Kat Cammy, who is here to celebrate with us today.
Hello. I did hear fundraising about 5 times as well back there, so I know I'm going to be seeing. And volunteers, in case that wasn't mentioned enough, volunteers, that's important. But no, it's so great to be back home. I flew in late last night after 4 delayed flights, so I'm really glad that I could be here this morning. This is such an incredible moment, not just for Dudley Farms, but for our community and the county as a whole. The designation of a national landmark, as you said, about 5 times, opens up new doors and new opportunities for more people to come and enjoy and learn and really bring that extra oomph that we know that Dudley Farms gives to our community. It's what we've known all along, but now we get to share it with the state and the nation. And when you look at where we are headed, we just recently celebrated 125 years, the city of Newberry. It's important that we have the opportunity to look back and really reflect on where we came from and how far we have come. I couldn't be more proud of the team of volunteers, elected officials, people who have been working their tails off to really show what a special place this is. And so congratulations, it's an honor to be your voice in Washington, D.C. I look forward to bringing my family here, as well as a few friends from Washington, to share the incredible, just dynamic, wonderful, historic place that Dudley Farms is. So thank you so much. Merry Christmas and congratulations again. And fundraise and volunteer.
Thank you, Representative, better just known as Kat. We appreciate you being here today to celebrate this with us, because she's right. This is a big deal, not just for Dudley, not just for the city of Newberry, not just for Alachua County, and please welcome the Alachua County Chair, Commissioner Mary Helen Wheeler. She's standing over there to join us tonight as well, or this morning as well. Oh, and we have Commissioner out right there next to you. You snuck in there. Thank you guys so much. This is big for the county, it's big for the state, but it's also important for Washington, D.C. to have that mirror into our past. And the first person that began the proposal to work on making Dudley a National Historic Site is here today with us to celebrate this, as she should be. And we'd like to welcome Mrs. Murray Laurie to the podium, please.
It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here. There were times when I wondered whether we would ever accomplish this. But I wanted to explain a little bit more about how this process works. I wanted to read the statement of significance that I wrote in the early days of my research. The Dudley Farm is a rare example of a small-scale, diversified farm in the regional context of the southeastern United States. The 260-acre property farmed by 3 generations of the Dudley family represents a significant component in our national agricultural history. The site remains essentially intact and capable of functioning as a farm, an exceptional situation in the 21st century. 3 of the original fields and pastures and sections of old roadways also lie within the farm boundaries and contribute to the authenticity of this cultural landscape. The 19 frame buildings constructed between 1882 and 1945 are in good condition and stand in their original location and represent the vernacular architectural style, although the farmhouse exhibits strong Georgian architectural influences. These structures comprise the most significant component of the material culture associated with the Dudley's family's agricultural, and domestic activities. This extensive material culture collection also includes family records, household objects, textiles, and agricultural implements. Excuse me. The Dudley Farm, which has a post office, general store, cattle dipping station, and cane grinding complex, served during its period of historical significance as the center of a rural community in western Alachua County. The Dudley family practiced sustainable agriculture for 3 generations, long before sustainability was a fashionable concept. It was important for the National Historic Landmark Office to demonstrate that the Dudley Farm was linked to national trends. Early in the 20th century, government programs to introduce scientifically based farming methods and provide services to farmers began to impact the lives of farm families like the Dudleys. Modern conveniences such as a gas engine to pump water were gradually installed, easing some of the daily workload, but the Dudleys continued to use many of their traditional tools and practices, and to rely on family labor and that of African American tenants and paid workers. The Dudleys sought out information from government agencies, cooperated with programs to eradicate cattle ticks by building a dipping vat, and took advantage of federal land bank programs. The high degree of integrity maintained at the Dudley Farm is due to the family's agricultural success and conservation of their resources. This integrity is assured for the future due to the strong protection afforded by the Florida Department of Parks and Recreations, which now owns, manages, and interprets the property as a Florida State Park. It was listed as the Dudley Farm Historic District on the National Register of Historic Places in 2002. And full documentation has been submitted to the Historic American Building Survey, which is prepared by UF faculty and students in the Historic Preservation Program. I prepared the nomination of the Dudley Farm to the National Register of Historic Places in 2002 and began gathering additional information and resources and documentation for this National Historic Landmark nomination in 2007. Dr. Evelyn Kelsey, a distinguished historian who is wise in the ways of the National Historic Landmark nomination intricacies, took over for me in 2016 and brought the nomination to its successful conclusion in January of this year. I wish you could have heard the genuine enthusiasm of the entire National Historic Landmark Review Board when she presented the nomination in Washington earlier this year. I was able to hear that part of the meeting thanks to a webinar connection, but I wish I'd been there in person. I met Miss Myrtle Dudley in the 1980s while pursuing a master's degree in history and architecture at UF. And I fell in love with the Dudley Farm then. She donated the first 25 acres to the state in 1983, and it has grown to 260 acres today. She was a fierce guardian and generous soul, sharing so much of her family's story with Sally Morrison and State Park staff, who were responsible for the conservation and interpretation of the Dudley property then and now. Friends of the Dudley Farm like Roy Hunt, Art Wade, and dozens, even hundreds of other volunteers kept the ball rolling, raising funds, tending the heritage roses, caring for the farm animals, planting and harvesting gardens, and growing sugarcane for the annual cane grindings, stitching new quilts and caring for those in the Dudley collection, and so much more. I'm proud to have been part of this national recognition of the significance and the value of the Dudley Farm. Thank you.
more. So would you
Sally,
please raise your
come here,
hand?
Sally.
There she is.
There
There
she
she
is.
is. Thank you. Please give her a round of applause.
Woo!
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Murray, for having the vision and the work ethic to make this come true. I'm going to take an MC liberty here just briefly, and I'm going to ask my daughter who's standing right there, I want you to just turn your eyes right over here, and look, there's a little cluster of women right here, Emma Jane, that represent the political leadership, not just locally, but in Washington, D.C. You can do anything you want to, darling, and right there is the evidence. I love it. They're changing the world right now, and they're changing it right there in my daughter's eyes. So I'm sorry, I had to do that. If you've been following the city of Newberry for the past few years, we have been doing some work to uncover all of our history here locally and to bring that out into the light so that we can engage in some hard conversations and we can recognize the truth of all parts of American history. And we have a committee that has been working and has recently partnered with Dudley Farm to help Dudley Farm in that effort to tell all parts of history. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sherry Dupree, who's going to tell you a little bit about what that committee is working on and what lies in future for Dudley Farm in the city of Newberry. Dr. Dupree.
This is a beautiful day. Yeah, we got a little fog, but that's not going to last very long. We're breathing. We're here. That's what makes it a beautiful day. Not only does it make it a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day to be here on this ground because this is hallowed ground. It has been hallowed by the state, it's been hallowed by the federal government, it's been hallowed for so many people throughout the world. I am here to represent the role of African Americans on the Dudley Farm. In 2005, a project was started to identify the roles. And this was set up, the project was expected to be completed in 2007. But it was completed in 2006. So we got through a little early. The project was expected to start in February, and it was estimated the cost of the project would run between $5,000 and $10,000, said Heather Shook Nelson. She was the program manager for the Department of Environmental Protection Division of Recreation and Parks, which was the sponsor of the project. We want to include all aspects of the project, said Shook Nelson. The project began in August, and the first phase of the project was to do research. And we completed our research in May the following year. Our research included many, many African Americans who worked on Dudley Farm. We went back to the slave records because we had to go there. We had to go to those that were enslaved. We got lists of people who had worked here and the different roles that they had to perform. We went to the cemetery because so many of those people are deceased. And that cemetery is right in our general area. It is on the church ground of the African American Church, which is Pleasant Plains over in Jonesville, but all of it is really in the community. We did many things to get this phase done. And then after that phase was done, the research part was done, then the part is to begin to plan to implement these ideas. And this is where we fell a little short on getting things done. Now, as we dealt with the Dudley Farm, we dealt with many, many aspects of the farm. And I won't go through all of them, but I do want to introduce to you the people that worked with me on this project. And I would like for them to stand. Galinda Green Grant, she's right here with us today, and Patty Bartlett. These are and we made up the three. And we spent many, many hours working to bring this project to fruition. Patty did a lot of the role of research playing. Garlinda made contacts in Jonesville with residents and people that were familiar with the farm because her family is from this community. And she was the base for helping us to get things done. And I want to recognize those people who are here today. I believe you are Mrs.
Wilbur Reed Camp.
Wilbur Reed Camp. Would you please stand and your family? Because they were one of the families out here on the Dudley farm during the early days. Please stand. And also, the lady in the back, I don't know your name, but would you recognize yourself by saying your name? Yes. The lady with the pink hat on. Okay. Miss Ida Lee. All right. Well, we thank you so much for coming to give coverage, because we went back to the community and we asked these people if they would come and be a part of what we are doing here with the research for the Dudley Farm. Now, we passed out blue bookmarks, and I think many of you have them. If you don't, we will get one to you. We have 3 right here we can pass out. And this is to emphasize moving the Perkins house to the Dudley farm. The Perkins house. Yes, the Perkins place is located in Jonesville, Florida. James and Rebecca Perkins, Perkins English, her maiden name was English, were one of the Jonesville pioneer African American families. On August 3rd of 1870, they were recorded as living in Alachua County by the U.S. Census Bureau. The couple owned 40 acres northeast of Dudley Farm, where they raised 8 children, and they came from Camden, South Carolina, as enslaved African workers. At the bottom, we were able to get a picture because the Camp family had a picture of the husband and wife. It is not the best quality picture, but you can see that they were recognized here in the early days. We're not sure of the date of the picture. Also, both of them are buried at Pleasant Plains United Methodist Church Cemetery in Jonesville. That's James Perkins and Rebecca English Perkins. Both are buried there. If you flip it to the back, the Perkins Place proposal. African American history is often erased or very difficult to document. But in the case of the Perkins family, the house is of historical significance, and it is a structure that deserves to be preserved and to have the history of the Perkins family shared by this community. Local community members proposed moving the house to Dudley Farm Historic State Park in Newberry. And I could not put all the information about the community members because they've been so supportive in helping us to get this started. Its use will be, by bringing this house here, it will be used to educate visitors about the lives and accomplishments of African American families during the 19th and 20th century in Florida. And we have a picture of Rosanna Perkins Hurst, who was one of the daughters, and we also have at the bottom Benjamin Preston Perkins and Elizabeth Miles Perkins. Benjamin Perkins was the son, and Lizzie Miles Perkins was his wife. All right? And so this is just a little mistake that we made because we didn't have the details, but we are right in saying that they were children of James and Rebecca Perkins. And that is so true. And we want to thank the Camp family for providing these pictures, and they have provided many others that you all have not seen yet. And we're looking forward to having those pictures put up here and giving recognition to so many folks who worked to make this farm what it is today. Also, I'd like to mention to you in this area, Jonesville, between Gainesville and Newberry, there were several black landowners. And most of these landowners also worked for the Dudley people. Yes, Jim Perkins and his wife Rebecca, and they purchased land in 1885, and this is where the house was built, the house that we want to have brought over and put on this land. And March 9, William Moss, and many of you know the Moss family. They purchased 40 acres in 1885. January 25th of 1886, Gaines Hurst, Milligan Hurst, and William Childs purchased 400 acres of land in this general area. In 1898, Surrey Ross' wife, Martin, purchased 40 acres. This is the Ross family, and they helped us so much in gathering the history that we shared with the report that we turned in. In 1908, December the 2nd, Dan Stokes and his wife Norma Smith purchased 80 acres of land. So these black farmers, African American farmers, were productive people. They were people that wanted to have the community serve all people and serve them in the best possible way. They were voters. We've got their voting records. We know their economics. We know a little bit about their social record. That we need to find more information concerning them. Also published on February 4th of 2006, the article was entitled "Blacks on Dudley Farm Remembered." And this article appeared in the Gainesville Sun newspaper. And it talked about the role of the African Americans on the Dudley Farm plantation at that time. And of course now it is a farm. And there's a picture we posed out front of the kitchen in a separate house, and you know where that is, right over on the side there. And we'll show you that. You can see it later. I have some copies that you may have. And while we were out here, we interviewed families from the Stokes family, from the McCrae family, and from many, many families who wanted their history included because they spent many hours on the Dudley farm. Many of them received pay. Some of them received services. Always not money was important. But we did a lot of bartering and activities out here to keep this place going. And we need not only to be included, but to know that all cultures, especially the Indians and others that we have not talked about, they were here too on this land. And they need to be brought out along with all the cultures that we are expressing today. We want to thank you for this opportunity, and we hope very soon to see more activities relating to African Americans, especially now that the salt givers have decided to give us or to share the house. And this is the house that the Perkins lived in, and you see that picture on the front of the bookmark. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dupree, and all the research to collect all that information and to help us fill in those gaps of our history. We appreciate you so much. Dr. Dupree mentioned the salt givers who have very generously donated the Perkins House, which is the last remaining structure that we've been able to found that was owned by someone who was born enslaved, and it's going to help us tell that history. Mrs. Saltzgiver is here. Would you please raise your hand? Can we give her a round of applause, please? That is a tremendously generous donation, and we appreciate it so much. It is going to impact lives of children who visit this farm, visit this park for generations. With that, I'm going to introduce someone who probably does not need an introduction to you guys. You all know her much better than I do. She's going to read a statement prepared by the Park Service, Miss Sandra Cassius.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'll be reading a letter from the United States Department of Interior, National Park Service. We are honored to recognize a significant historic preservation distinction for the Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Recreation and Parks, well-loved Dudley Farm State Historic Park, Dudley Farm. Since Dudley Farm opened in 2001, the land has been used for historical interpretation, recreation, and agriculture. With the assistance of volunteers, Florida Park Service staff cultivated crops and raised animals similar to those grown by the Dudley family. Already well known for its living laboratory, let us add three special words: National Historic Landmark. Today Today we are happy to celebrate Dudley Farm's exceptional ability to convey the broad national patterns in social history, labor relations, and agricultural practice of owner-operated farms in the southeastern United States in the late 19th and early 20th century. The largely intact Dudley Farm features a collection of buildings which illustrate the expansion over time of commercial farming on owner-operated farms and the effects of agricultural reform efforts and technological changes. The sugarcane complex and store at Dudley Farm were sites for social gathering for the rural community. Members of the Dudley family who were white worked on the farm themselves, where they also employed black men and women to supplement the family's labor. There are over 2,600 National Historic Landmarks in the United States. That sounds like a lot, but it is actually a very select company. There are more than 96,000 sites in the National Register of Historic Places. That means fewer than 3 out of every 100 historic places recognized by these National Park Service programs are National Historic Landmarks. These include Mount Vernon, Pearl Harbor, the Apollo Mission Control Center, Alcatraz, and the Martin Luther King's birthplace. Now, Dudley Farm can be counted among those special places, and we at the National Park Service are thrilled about your milestone. Here's why. Building upon works of Mary D. Laurie, Dr. Evelyn Causey, through an agreement with the Organization of American Historians, prepared a successful nomination. The nomination success is, in large part, due to the help and support of the staff of Dudley Farm Historic State Park. The nomination process is intense and usually takes between 2 and 5 years. It involves careful description of the property and its evolution, detailing its national significance, and identifying any other properties that might share that story. Several rounds of drafts were reviewed by the National Park Service, interested stakeholders, and anonymous peer reviewers before a final nomination is presented to the National Committee. Following that committee's recommendation to the National Park Service System Advisory Board, the Secretary of Interior will consider the nomination to decide whether the designated property as a National Historic Landmark. You may have heard that 2016 marked the centennial of the National Park Service. One way we celebrated was a program called Find Your Park. It encourages people to get out and enjoy America's nature, history, and culture in whatever special places appeals to them most, whether national or local, and whether their name includes the word park or not. Imagine the countless thousands who have been finding their parks right here at Dudley Farm and throughout your state park system. Florida's Division of Recreation and Parks is also the steward of many other National Historic Landmarks, including Crystal River Archaeological Site, Dade Battlefield, Fort Zachary Taylor, Marjorie Canaan Rollins House, Marjorie Stoneham Douglas House, and San Marcos de Apalache. You know, that's the great thing about National Historic Landmarks. Although we at the National Park Service keep track of the official list, the vast majority of owners and stewards of the America's 2,641 National Historic Landmarks are peoples and entities like you. They are local communities, property owners, and citizens who care and then acted to propose, to protect and promote these treasures. What a list it is, with every kind of place imaginable, from cottages and mansions to farms and ranches, from battlefields and forts to chapels and cathedrals, from gardens and graveyards to taverns and skyscrapers, from sailing ships and lighthouses to railroads and even a historic wooden roller coaster. And now it contains Florida's 45th addition to the list, Dudley Farm National Historic Landmark. Congratulations. Sincerely, Cassius M. Cash, Acting Regional Director.
Well, now that is an elite group to add Dudley to, and that should make us all proud to have that designation. And now the moment we have all been waiting for, if I could get our representatives from the Park Service to take your places. If I could get you, Ms. Murray, would you please come and take a place of honor right here? And I'm going to ask if Chair Wheeler, would you come and join us, please? This is a partnership between Newberry, the state park system, and the county. So please come and join us here as we unveil it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. That concludes our ceremony. Please enjoy Cane Day, enjoy Dudley Farm, your new National Historic designation.
I don't know.